Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, everybody. Today I'm interviewing Laura Patterson, co-founder and current president of VisionEdge Marketing. Laura's company, founded in 1999, was among the first pioneers in the area of marketing performance management. She's the driving force to bring science to the discipline of marketing and help their clients use data, analytics, metrics, and processes to prove and improve the value of their marketing. She's been helping CEOs and marketing executives at companies such as Cisco, Elsevier, ING, Intel, Kennametal, and Southwest Airlines, and improve the value of their marketing. She's the author of the book Metrics in Action, Creating a Performance-Driven Marketing Organization. Laura spent 20 years in the industry before co-founding VisionEdge Marketing, including 14 years at Motorola, where she began in sales and ultimately became Director of Customer Marketing and Brand Strategy. Welcome, Laura. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Eric. We're really excited to be a part of the radio program. We appreciate being included.
Thank you for being here once again. Before we jump in, could you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Okay. You did an awesome job on the introduction. So I originally hail from St. Louis, so I'm a Midwestern girl, which is all about, if you know anything about Missouri, it's a show-me state. And I think you'll find that's really important as we go on. So it's all about being able to prove what you're saying. People don't believe you unless you have the evidence. So that's probably a little tidbit.
That's good. Now, could you tell us a bit more about how you got into this? Is this something you were always wanted to do, or is this something you stumbled into?
That's a great question, and it was a very deliberate path. A quick shout out to some of the wonderful organizations out there for folks that are in, junior high and high school. When I was in junior high and high school, I was involved in several organizations, which included like Junior Achievement, Future Teachers of America, the Debate and Speech Club. So those are really great organizations because they help you kind of get a sense of what you're interested in. And during this same time, Eric, my father, and maybe you were having similar conversations with your folks at this time in your life, we were talking about things like, what are the things that you really like that you think you're good at? And what are the things that you like but you're maybe not very good at? Or what are things you're good at but you don't like? So that, we could begin to hone in on things that I really enjoyed. And between those conversations and the experiences, I realized that I really enjoyed creatively solving problems and how business worked, particularly sales and marketing. So when it was time to go to college, I pursued both business and communication and marketing degrees, and I took summer jobs instead of, taking where the money was really good, like maybe a hostess job or someplace like that, or something that was tips-based. I went and took summer jobs to learn the basics in sales and marketing. Didn't make as much money as some of my friends, doing other things, but learned a lot.
Cool. Now let's talk about some of the personal attributes or traits you think contributed the most to your success.
That's an interesting question, too, and I do think it is important to have a handle on your personality. I don't know, have you ever taken the Strength Finder test?
No, but I've heard of it.
Well, I've had the opportunity to take it, and the basic concept of the folks who created that test is to really understand where your strengths are and to work at excelling at those. And it's really valuable for folks in the workforce. So those performance appraisals you're probably familiar with, and they have a tendency to kind of hone in on things you need to do better. Well, the whole concept of this, and even with your own kids, is to really hone in on what they do well, build that, and then augment in the workforce the weaknesses with folks who have those strengths. So that way you're always building on the things that are really positive in folks and not having them spend energy on maybe fixing something that isn't really one of their strengths. So for me, they always identify your top 5 strengths. Mine was futuristic, achiever, strategic, relator, and focus. I think they really nailed me. And when I think about those qualities, and I think back again to some of the other things I learned in my younger life that I still follow me today, things like tenacity and perseverance. I mean, you can't be an entrepreneur today. You can't be in sales today if you don't have tenacity and perseverance, right? Yeah. Especially in the climate, right? Things like being industrious, resourceful, dependable, having initiative. Again, really important in sales and marketing is being, having initiative, being disciplined, and then from my folks, really a sense of being generous. My parents, my mother was a nurse. My father was a cartographer. They didn't make very much money. We always used to say we came from the other side of the tracks, but they really believed in being a part of the community, and they may not have had a lot of money, but they always were generous with whatever they had, and especially with their time with things like the Heart Association, the Humane Society, the Food Bank, PBS. So basically, the philosophy was pay your bills, put a little money aside, and give to others, and help the world be a better place. So I think those are kind of the things that helped me develop the traits I have today.
Great. And how about giving us some examples of how that helped you become such a success?
Well, okay, I'll give you, you stop me at any time. So, you probably, again, have similar experiences like growing up in a neighborhood where you learn your first sales and marketing with the lemonade stand in the summer or the hot chocolate stand in the winter, right? It's a really good lesson in tenacity because you have to stick with it despite, optimal conditions. It's freezing cold when you're standing out there or it's blazing hot. So I think that's the beginnings of that sense of finishing things. And I think that, again, with my parents, they really weren't all necessarily about perfection, but they were about getting the job done, finishing it, and finishing it with excellence. They really believed the world didn't owe you anything. You weren't entitled to anything. So if you wanted something, you had to kind of have a plan and go out and earn it. So I think the lemonade stand and a hot chocolate stand were their ways of us getting, a handle on that. And you might remember this too. I don't know if you remember or have ever had to do this, but my first real sales experience was in elementary school. I was selling world's finest chocolate. Have you heard of that brand?
Yep.
Okay, well, you sell it door to door, and it's really the first time I learned the power of a brand and the importance of a good value proposition and being able to adjust your message to your customers' wants and needs, right? Also, a lot about perseverance, how you sometimes have to keep going even when there's a lot of no's. To this day, I am a sucker for world's finest chocolate. Just not long ago, some of the kids were selling it. And I didn't realize they had expanded their product line so much. With really good dark chocolate. So I have other examples, but maybe those are some that everyone can relate to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It is very relatable. Like anything in life, you rarely have a straight line to it, and its success is no exception. So what are some of the major adversities or trials you had to overcome to achieve your goals?
That's a really good question. And I really truly believe that one's character becomes much more evident when they have to face adversity. It's easy to have good character when things are going well. The real challenge is when things are going, a little bit, hitting a rough patch, right? So I have a couple. One is that, I spent 14 years at Motorola, which was a very engineering-oriented company. In my career, I've only worked for engineers or accountants, but my background's not math. I'm not a statistician. I'm not an economist. I'm a marketer. Not that, obviously math has come to marketing. We can talk about that later. But when you're not an engineer working in an engineering company, or you're not an accountant working in an accounting environment, you really have to work that much harder because, people look at you in a different light and you don't maybe have the same credibility coming in right away. So you have to really work hard to earn it. And then, of course, as an entrepreneur, starting at VisionEdge Marketing in 1999 wasn't the hard part. If you could spell marketing in Austin in 1999, you could get a job. It was amazing what was going on here in this city, and it's still a remarkable city and seeing tremendous amount of growth. But we've had our hard times too, and when you think about 9/11 and the dot-com bust, that hit Austin hard as well, and we had to recover from that. And that overall climate of uncertainty, and everyone was really shell-shocked. So how do you keep your company going when folks are kind of in that state? And the last major downturn, I think, is another good example. It was like musical chairs with marketers. That game where, you walk around and there's only so many chairs, but there's more people than chairs. And when the music stops, you have to get a chair, and whoever's left standing is out of the game. Well, it was a little bit like that, the downturn. It all of a sudden the music would stop, and the people you were working with were no longer in those jobs. So, marketers were being shed right and left. Marketing dollars were being shed right and left. People who were left sort of to play in the game didn't have authority, or they didn't have any budget. So those are challenging times when you're running a company and trying to, keep the lights on and serve your customers. You get customers, right? So those are examples, I think, of things where you have to be tenacious, resourceful, creative. Many of those traits.
Yeah, I think you put your finger on a lot of things that people need to do to be able to succeed. And one thing I like to ask successful entrepreneurs is how they keep going when they hit walls. Of course, there are, tenacity is part of it, obviously, but digging deeper, what kept you going when you thought maybe there was nothing else you could do?
It's passion. We really have a passion for what we do. I think entrepreneurs who have a passion, it exudes from them. So we really have a passion for what we do, helping our customers prove and improve the value of their marketing. We really, truly believe that the work we do solves migraines for our customers. They know they're in pain, but they don't always know why they're hurting, and they often try to solve it by throwing more tools at it, or some more people at it. But it may take more than shiny toys to fix the problem. And I guess the other thing that keeps us going is our customers. We have amazing, wonderful customers, customers that have been with us for a very long time, and then newer customers, and they're just wonderful to work with. And when you are working with smart, talented people, that's stimulating.
Nice. What's your vision for your business in the next, let's say, 5 years?
That's a good question, and I do wish I had a crystal ball and I could see how the future would unfold.
Don't we all?
Yes, but we've been helping our customers use data analytics, measurement, and process since we began. Those are kind of the basic building blocks of everything that we do. And we began to put a very special emphasis on marketing measurement, dashboards, accountability, and operations in 2001. In fact, our 15th annual Marketing Performance Management Benchmark Study results were just released. And so anyone interested in that and has a passion for understanding how to measure and improve the value of their marketing will find that to be a really helpful resource. We were really early to the game, and today that's become mainstream. So the most important thing that we're focusing on now isn't competing with everybody else who's saying the same thing and begun to echo the very things that we brought out into the conversation early on, but now how to use those things to transform marketing into centers of excellence and really serve as that hub inside a company that will help the organization achieve its growth. A lot of growth occurred over the last 2 years through mergers and acquisitions. You probably noticed that yourself. Maybe you even did some interviews on that. But the real test of sustainability is organic growth, right? And that takes marketing. So all the money that's on the sidelines right now, has to get put in play. You can't hoard your way to growth. You have to invest your way to growth. So that's kind of what we see is how do you make marketing a center of excellence that can help an organization grow and create value.
Nice. One thing that we hear about out there is that some companies are kind of scared of hiring these bigger marketing firms because they're afraid of making the change that are necessary, or they take it personal. So how do you feel the biggest misconceptions are out there about your clients dealing with companies such as yours? I mean, making change is difficult, right? So how do you address this?
You're exactly right. Making change is hard, and it takes commitment. It takes discipline to see change through. A lot of people think it's going to happen faster and easier than it typically is going to happen, but it doesn't matter what it is that you have to change. So one of the things I did not very long ago and spent over a dozen years doing was competing in triathlons. And I didn't even learn to swim until I was 40. So imagining competing when you don't even really know how to swim, you're just muscling your way through it.
Mm-hmm.
But, right? And for me to be successful, I had to reach out and get help so I could learn how to swim. My first lessons were with 5-year-olds, right? Because really, truly, I did not have any of the mechanics of swimming. And then as I got better, I got better coaches who can help my stroke become more efficient and more effective. But first I had to learn the basics, and then I went from there. So depending on where you are in your change, so having a roadmap for change and recognizing that you need where you need help and what kind of help you need. But even the best athletes in the world, and I'm just going to stick with that metaphor for the moment, have coaches. Even the best singers in the world have coaches. Right? The best actors in the world have coaches. These are people that are at the top of their game, and they recognize the value of tapping experts, right? And tapping, help. So these entrepreneurs and marketers and CEOs and CFOs who kind of think they can insulate themselves and do it on their own, maybe they're missing out, on the opportunity for that excellence that they could achieve to be at the top of their game if they did tap outside help.
That's excellent advice, because what we hear all the time is that these entrepreneurs that try to do everything themselves, and then they just don't reach out because they feel they'd look weak or something. So that's an excellent example you just gave there. Before we wrap it up, what one piece of advice would you give someone who wants to start using companies such as yours going for marketing? How do you choose the right one as an example?
Okay, I think that's an important question. And one of the things we learned from the study over the years is how important it is for things to first be a priority. We all probably remember, Covey talking about first things first, doing what's important versus what's urgent. And we all are guilty of, being in the emergency or crisis of the moment, taking away from the things that drive us forward. So first and most important, if you want to get started, you have to make it important. You have to kind of make a commitment to do it. And then the next thing is actually taking action. It kind of reminds me of, standing at the precipice of a cliff and going cliff jumping. Again, something I did when I was much younger than I am now.
Wow.
And you stand at the top of that cliff and it looks a long way down. You're thinking, all kinds of things, but you have to take a leap of faith, right? Wow. So part of it is a leap of faith. And the other thing is a lot of folks, we really are overwhelmed by email. There's so much bombarding us in so many ways. We've gotten into the habit of wanting, 140 characters to tell us the whole story. But, reading, just start by reading and then going to conferences and connecting with others. You don't have to, and finding out who they work with and listening to people and see if it resonates with you. I am surprised at how many executives who send their troops to conferences to grow their skill set. They don't, drink their own champagne, so to speak, and get out there and go to conferences. Find a couple, go once a quarter. These people who go to an annual conference, probably not often enough. Go once a quarter. It's not the same as listening to a webinar where you're multitasking, holding your staff meeting, reading your email, listening to a webinar.
Sounds like me.
Me too. I admit I'm guilty. Lots of places like our company have, really good, solid content. We have all kinds of white papers, all the articles that third parties publish. We have on our site. We have recordings. We have case studies. And then, take people up on their offers for free 10 to 15 minutes. It's kind of like, go into the driving range and there's a golf pro there that, and you're talking for a few minutes. And they say, well, let me see your stroke, right? And then you hit the ball, and they give you one or two little suggestions that make all the difference in what you're doing. I mean, free advice. So take advantage of those 10 to 15-minute free consultations. We just did that, for our own website, and we're going to be unveiling a new homepage in a couple of weeks. And it came from folks who are willing to be generous with their time.
Okay, that's great advice. I always like to say that knowledge is power, right? So you got to keep learning and learning all the time. So, and on that note, how can our listeners learn more about you and your company or get in touch with you?
I would love to hear from any of your listeners. You can reach out to me at email. I'm really responsive with email unless I'm on the road. So if you don't hear back from me, something terrible has happened. It's Laura, Laura, P as in Peter. So it's first name, last initial, at Vision, like in sight, edge, like the edge of a knife, marketing, VisionEdge Marketing, all spelled out, one word, .com. You can find, use the contact us form. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or at Twitter at Laura VEM. So any way that you want to reach out, we will circle back to you. we appreciate visitors. So come visit us.
Cool. Well, once again, a huge thank you for taking the time to share this knowledge with us. This was very, very interesting. So a huge thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.